What's up, you guys, and welcome into today's show. I'm so happy that you are here because I'm so happy with today's episode. Amanda Vernon came to town all the way from Arizona to guest co-host with me and to do a concert at Allison Sullivan's house on Friday night. I even got to lead worship with her. It was really, really cool. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you do, as always, subscribe wherever you are listening on podcasts or if you're watching on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button and leave a comment if you're on YouTube. Leave a review if you're on Apple Podcasts especially. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy today's show. What's up? And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and I am joined today by a former guest on the show.
Former guest,
filling in as guest co-host today, live in the studios,
in person.
Also known as the water closet. You're here. That voice that you hear laughing and clapping, well, our voice isn't clapping, that'd be weird. That's Amanda Vernon. Welcome back, Amanda.
Great to be here in person. I'm really excited. Thanks for having me. The water closet. I've seen this place, on Instagram.
Okay, so you've seen what they're seeing.
I've seen what y'all see.
Now you're seeing what I see. Thoughts about the rest of the room.
It's more expansive than what I saw on the little Instagram clip.
That is the nicest thing you could say about the rest of this room. The water heater you're 3 feet from. We even did some renovations. There's a hole under the water heater into a room that we don't know what it is.
That's like a secret passageway.
Yeah, that's where we put our kids to sleep like Harry Potter. The alcohol cabinet is restocked. We're having a great time. So usually the only person that's here to record in person anymore is Allison, because
Allison Sullivan,
the firsty lastie, who you say it's very staccato.
It's her name is so rhythmic. It just sounds like it should be like it's the remix, Allison Sullivan. That's what it sounds like to me.
Your name, you are not country, and there's like nothing about you that's country. But when I think of your name, I hear it in my head as country. Amanda Vernon, like that's how I hear it.
Yeah, I like that.
Welcome to the water closet, Amanda Vernon. Nice to have you here.
We are in Texas, so it sounds right.
Well, good. I'm glad you're feeling quite welcome here. So, you messaged. We've become internet friends. You came on the show, episode 158. We talked about God wrecking your romance, and it was less depressing than it sounds.
Thank you again.
And then we became friends on the internet. Kind of got to know each other more, even because one of the things like sometimes you have guests on and like. Okay, that was nice. I'm done with that.
Goodbye forever.
Yeah. But other people, it's like, she was pretty neat. So we kept talking. And then you mentioned, I guess a few months ago, because you were like, well, I haven't seen people in a while. So in the before, you called them the before times. So we have like BC before Christ, AD after Christ. And then we have like
BC.
BT. BT. Before times, back in the before times, we're currently in the apocalypse. So
yes, in the apocalypse.
In the before times, before the vid, who is Amanda Vernon and what did she do before her life shut
in
down?
The before times, Amanda Vernon I was a full-time recording artist and author, which I still am, but the lifestyle, the way I expressed it, the way I lived it out was very different. So I was on the road 15 days of the month. So on average, giving 8 live events across the country. And so, I was flying all of the time. And so over the last year, all of my events were canceled. All of my live events were canceled. I didn't cancel any of them personally, but they all canceled on me. And so, so tonight I'm supposed to play some music in your town with some friends of yours, and it's incredible. Like I'm just in a different mindset now after like a year of not traveling. I'm like, is this real? Are we really?
Right, yeah.
What is this? And I flew Southwest, which I always did in the before time. So I got on the plane. on the way here. And you hear people kibitzing as they get onto the plane, talking to each other. And I heard as people were kind of choosing their seats, you choose your own spot on Southwest, right?
Oh yeah, that's why I don't fly.
Yeah, you can tell the newbies too, because they're like looking down at their boarding pass, looking up what do I do?
Know exactly where.
Yeah.
I'm going.
So you have to kind of navigate that with other passengers, right? And so I hear somebody say, "There's a window open over here," and I'm going, "A window open?" She's like, "Yeah." She kept repeating it. I'm like, "No, that's bad news bears, like wrong." And then all of a sudden I realized like they're talking about the window seat. I'm like, oh, I haven't flown
so
in a while.
You know how like you're in your car and sometimes if you open one window,
yeah,
like there's that terrible noise
yes.
ringing in your ear. So what you should have said was, "Can we open another window on this side?
Can we even this out?"
Yeah.
Ventilation.
Speaking of even out, that's an experience I've never had on an airplane because my brain still works.
Mm-hmm.
But I have an experience that you have 100% never had.
What's that?
You talked about evening out a plane. So I'm a larger human than you.
No. Did they ask you to move?
There are very little planes. So you flew into Houston, which is like the closest big city and big airport to us. We have a little
like a regional,
a little airport here.
Yeah.
And those planes weigh a little bit more than I do. So and they're 5'8", like height wise. I'm 6'2", so like I literally have to like be like the Hunchback of Notre Dame to get in them.
Wow.
And I sat down, and there's this moment where I don't know, hostess, stewardess, whatever insert politically correct woman who helps on a
flight
plane.
attendant.
Yeah, they're flight attendant. There you go. So I could see her counting. And she's like counting people on one side and counting people on the other side, and then she just locks eyes with me.
she jumps up head 3.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Would you mind moving to the other side? And what I heard is, "Hey, buddy, you're fat. Move over here." And that's what I did. So that's our flight stories.
Yeah, it hasn't. I've seen it happen to other people though.
And you're like, "What a loser!" And now you're
we always
sitting
applaud.
with that loser.
We want to applaud. Like, thank you for helping us.
You did it. So okay, so you were a professional recording artist. I said the last time you were on the show that you look like Alicia Keys. You sound like Alicia Keys. You're like the Catholic version of Alicia Keys. And,
I'll take it.
Live events canceled. Like I've talked about. Like I used to travel and speak and do a little bit of music too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not Alicia Keys, but
there's some differences.
just slightly. But all that got trampled. Mm-hmm. So I had to shift what I was doing too. I had to be like, okay, I'm going to do more podcast production. I'm going to put more into the YouTube, all this kind of stuff. Just kind of change what we're doing. Mm-hmm. I did that a year ago. You just started a podcast, so why did you wait a whole year?
Oh well, I was building it. So we just launched our podcast. So
that's called.
Yeah. So the podcast is We Should Pray. The podcast where we discuss how prayer transforms tragedy into comedy. And so I decided probably last May so coming up on a year is when we decided to have a podcast, but it took until now to launch it. So we've been recording, and so we unlike where we're recording now and then we're gonna share this presumably pretty soon. A lot of our episodes are already filmed, and so that way we can, because my husband's my manager, so we work together full time, and we also have 4 children who we're raising. So we have to plan like way in advance to both of us be able to do that and to like have enough content so that when we say, "Hey, we're starting a show," like we can actually have the show.
We did the divide and conquer approach.
Yeah.
Like my wife's a stay-at-home mom. And so when I'm doing my podcast work, like you asked when you got here, you're like, "Where's your family?"
Right.
So where did I tell you they are?
At the park and school. Yeah.
And why are they at those places?
So that you can be here.
So I can be here. So we did the divide and conquer approach. So here's an interesting question.
Right.
I don't think I've ever prefaced like I don't think I've ever complimented my own question.
I'm about to say something fascinating.
Right.
Might want to listen in.
So there have, so like classic gender roles where like the man did all the work and the woman stayed home, right? And then over the like our lifetime, like a lot of more women are working outside of the house.
Okay.
And even to the point, like there's a lot of friends of mine who now like they're the stay-at-home dads, and like the wife works. Mm-hmm. What I've never talked to anybody about is your husband works for you, and you like you're very kind and you say that y'all work together, but like you're the talent.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm. It's
does he
the
work
brand
for you?
is so the brand is me, like Amanda Vernon. Like people are like, well, so who does your husband work for? I'm like, yeah, cradling my own face over here, right here.
So like, how does that work? Because like I obviously opposite genders,
yes,
but
I
like
know what you're saying.
my wife, like I always thought it'd be weird, like if she works for me, because I'm a perfectionist, and then if
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't do something perfect, I don't want to be yelling at her for work stuff. We have enough to fight about in our
right.
know,
Well,
life.
the reason why it works so well for David and me is because we are both so passionate about what we're doing. So it's not like, because I'm trying to imagine like if we were running a company that I wasn't like 100% sold on,
Right.
like that. I don't think we couldn't. A good thing. I'm sold on myself. No, but like like I'm doing my favorite things, like writing music in the studio every week, sharing my story, sharing about our faith, and those. That's the kind of expression that I love. And then David has, since before we started dating, been really passionate about sharing his faith. Right. Yeah.
I saw that coming from
even before we started dating. Let me tell you.
You care about, and he just gets
and
to
he cares about
support
me.
You, yeah.
That's so beautiful.
So here's the thing. I wish your husband were here so I could ask him, like, is it that beautiful working for your wife? But he enjoys it. Like, is there?
No, that's a great question, because really, it's harder to gauge, right? Because I'm the one who's like in front of the camera and saying the things, and David's facilitating that, right? But this is David's dream, like especially in quarantine. I mean, this is it. Like his dream is to be able to, this is what he told me before we started dating. He goes, I really want to have my own company someday so that I can work from home and really raise my kids, like really be a part of their upbringing. And I remember thinking, like, why is he telling me this?
Right. I want you to do all the work. So it's like the opposite of sugar daddy. Sugar mama. I don't know what the term is. Probably gonna get myself in trouble, but that's what it is.
We call it spouses, Taylor. We call it spouses.
Oh, I thought you said sprouses. I'm like, I've never heard this. That's what spouses are? I didn't know that. I wasn't informed.
So we were able to take what I loved doing, which was mainly entertainment. Like I love songwriting, but for me, it's always about like the live performance, like sharing this with people in real time in front of them. But then to take David's business background, he has his degree in marketing and sales, and his entrepreneurial spirit, which I mean, I also am an entrepreneur as well, but like he's so systematic, and he has this like long range vision for like, how can we sustain this? And so putting those two together has been, it's been incredible to be able to team in that way. I mean, it's overwhelming sometimes, but it's been really fruitful.
So how much of what you accomplish would get accomplished if he wasn't working with you?
No, one of my dear friends was
the
like,
answer none of it? Because
well, no, okay, like I had 5 albums or something before we got married. So like I was working in music. I was a professional recording artist already. However, to be a mom and to have my career, I wouldn't do that unless he was supporting it fully. Like, there's just no way I can imagine that.
Well, that's good. And I know that he's helping with the podcast. He's emailed me about it, and I got to know it was coming before anybody else did. I'm very special.
Insider knowledge.
So when you last time you came on the show, there's a priest that you wrote this book about, When God Wrecks Your Romance.
I wrote it with him. Well, it's also about him.
Did I not say with? Did I say about?
You said I wrote a book about a priest, which is true, but he also wrote the book about me.
So y'all worked
Just
on this.
want to clarify.
On this, fine.
Yeah.
Clarify.
Cool.
So you wrote this book about him. Y'all wrote it together, and y'all worked on the book together. It's about y'all's romance story, how y'all fell. You know the story. You share.
I know the story. Yeah. So the way that we sum it up is like 2 kids meet, fall in love, and then their paths go in opposite directions. Sad story.
So he was like, "Hello, This is what I'm imagining. This is exactly what he said. He said, "I dated you, and now I've lost all love for women, so I need to go be a celibate priest now."
What do you think? Like, should I get a prize or something from his religious order? Like, thank you. so
you
much.
You were such a bad girlfriend that it led him to
You
celibacy.
paved a way, and the church is forever grateful.
So y'all wrote this book. You can go listen to the whole story. Obviously, with the whole story, listen to the book if you want a snippet of it. Episode 158 of
this
Forte Catholic.
Yeah.
But now y'all are working this next project that y'all are working on together.
Right.
Y'all do this podcast
regularly,
together. And so I just assumed that it was going to be like directly related to the book.
Okay.
And now that I've heard this, like the subtitle, I can see how it's like indirectly. You're like tragedy into comedy because now, like you were the whole, y'all went different directions, heartbreak, all these things.
Right.
A tragedy.
It was
right?
tragic,
especially for like a high school kid losing their love. Like that is tragedy, right?
Yeah.
But then y'all wrote the book together, and then like y'all were still friends. But now in this room that you're recording. There was this tragedy, and now you can only laugh about it. And now the laughing is you and your old boyfriend, who's now a priest, and your husband in the room, which to me just screams comedy.
Isn't it funny? It's like it's like that tension that just like bubbling up, and what are you gonna do about it? Like a laugh. It's hilarious, and like. That's the thing. Oh, I think that Father Matt would like me to clarify that he wasn't technically my boyfriend. Okay, getting back to the story. Although there was a story in America Magazine that says like when your boyfriend becomes a priest or something. It's a catchier headline.
Well,
Anywho.
we all know, we've all learned in the last few years.
Yeah.
We have to trust the media and not the source.
Yes, right.
So I believe American Magazine, not you. I don't think you know all the facts, Amanda.
All right, now that we've gotten that out of the way. So, I mean, that's the whole movement of our book is like from tragedy into comedy, and it's through prayer. Like it's through being able to look at what we went through, which at the time was so heartbreaking, and then to be able to see how it turned out like so beautifully. And there's just this joy in that. And so, and my son asked me recently, he I don't know why, he loves literature. And he's like, hey, what's the difference between tragedy and comedy? And he said, the ending. And I'm like, it's so good, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's, you could have something that is so terrible and awful, but if it ends well, you can look back and laugh, with joy and not like... sadistically. And so now to have David as our producer, he's sitting there,
That's
so we're husband. So David's my husband. So like say Father Matt's sitting where you are, and then I'm on one side.
Because you said husband's end. I thought you were gonna like use a pet name and you recognized it in the middle. My hubs.
Yes, I mean all the above. So he'll be sitting on the. I was trying to set the scene actually, Taylor. That's why I stopped because so I'm trying to picture it right. So here's a table, and Father Matt and I are sitting at the table, kind of talking to the camera, like you and I are right now. And then David is on the other side of the table, and he has all of the equipment, and he's monitoring us on his headphones. And every once in a while, he'll like interject and be like, "Hey, can you clarify what you just said?" Or he'll ask a question, and like. I just think it's really unique that we're able to be in that.
I couldn't imagine
scenario
because
together.
On camera,
yeah,
you cut one of those men out of your life romantically, but on the camera it's flipped, and I couldn't imagine being your husband in that scenario.
Yeah,
like my wife and I don't want either of each other as exes.
Yes.
Anywhere around.
Exactly. So, okay, so it really does help, though, that we didn't date because he's not my ex. Like that for us is a big difference. Our relationship was a friendship, even though we both had these really strong feelings for each other and had to navigate that internally. Like our experience with each other growing up was one of friendship. And so I really think, you talk about like the virtue of chastity, and I know that gets like so hyped up, and which I appreciate, but like
hyped up.
What I'm saying is like
it's chastity.
as like but like in high school, like it seems like that's when we talk about it for kids is like high school, and then it's like drop off after that. But like really that virtue
Go forth
of like
and don't multiply.
Oh my goodness. So that virtue of like being able to integrate your feelings and your attractions with like the rest of your life in a successful manner, like, man, that was huge for us. And I really think it's through the basis of our friendship being like our faith and like really caring about each other and the good of each other, that we can like carry on with this friendship now.
Well, I'm proud of you because I couldn't do it.
Thanks.
There's literally one girl that I broke up with her.
Yeah.
And she drove away.
Mm-hmm.
We were in high school. Like we lived in the same small town.
Yeah.
She drove away. I never saw her again.
Yeah.
I've to this day I've never seen her. So like that's what happens when I break up with people.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's like lesser. I just think that it's what you're capable of, and that's
it's
a
what
good
I
thing.
desired.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't want to do a podcast. With
Right.
no,
And like I think, I remember even when I told, because we invited Matt, Father Matt now, but he was seminarian at the time. We invited him to our wedding, and I remember one of my friends being like, "Oh." No, never. Like if my ex-boyfriend showed up,
objection part.
Yeah. She's like, if my great love from like when I was in high school, if he showed up now, I'd be like, you get the heck out of here because I cannot. Like, right? Like she just couldn't have that presence in her life in the current relationship that she was in. And I respect that.
Well, it does help that yours is a priest and like. It's less intimidating because of the whole celibacy thing.
Yeah, celibacy.
Yeah.
For the win.
Helpful. Okay, so speaking of helpful, we talked about the podcast a bit. So if people, we should pray.
We should pray.
That's the name of the show. We're not going to pray right now because this is...
I just prayed in my heart. Too late. It's over.
I didn't. You better pray for me too. So if people tune in, what are they going to get? Give me your elevator pitch for We Should Pray.
Right, yeah. So when we speak about tragedy being turned into comedy, we do talk about something tragic at the onset of every show. Now, it's tragedy in our own experience and in our shared experience. So Father Matt and I will be like, remember that really tragic thing that happened? And we'll talk about it. And then
fun.
Yeah. But then we actually pray. Like we pray in the middle of our show. I feel like a lot of times we pray at the end or the beginning, but we pray right in the middle of the show. And then we laugh about it. Now we find a way to say like, hey, what good has come out of this tragedy? And it's not always like an earth-shattering tragedy, but like for instance, I mean, you were talking about like the last year for me, like all my shows were canceled. You mentioned like your way of life was greatly altered as it was for all of us. But for instance, we have an episode coming up about that. Like, well, this is tragic, right? And what are we learning from it? What are we gaining from it in light of like believing that God is in it?
So there are similarities between our shows and one major difference.
Okay.
The similarity is we both start with tragedy and end with comedy.
Yes.
It's the middle that's different. You guys pray about it and then share from your prayer.
Yeah.
I just yell about it to my co-host on the show,
yeah.
and we work through it, and by the end, we're all laughing about it. Mostly just because laughter is the way that I react to pain.
Yes.
So go check out We Should Pray. We're going to take a quick break and be right back, where we're going to get back to Taylor sharing his very strange theological thoughts. Don't go anywhere. This episode is releasing here in Holy Week. So either you're listening and it's almost Easter, so I hope that you have a happy Easter, or you're listening after Easter, so happy Easter. I just broke the rules just to make you happy, which is what I made my life out of. Good news. For Easter, I'm releasing 3 songs all about the resurrection and the hope that we have because Jesus didn't stay dead. He rose. Hooray! So every week, every Friday, releasing one of these new songs only on YouTube. So go to youtube.com/Forte Catholic to subscribe today so you don't miss that. We just hit 400 subscribers over there, which is 40% towards our goal. So thank you if you've done that already. If not, it's super quick and easy and free. Go to youtube.com/Forte Catholic, hit the subscribe button, and I'll love you forever, just like Jesus does. Except he's better. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Stroll. That is still Amanda Vernon. And we got to know Amanda a little bit more in the last segment. But now, like all good episodes of Forte Catholic, we're going to shift the focus back to me. So, I know, Amanda, that you are a singer. Like one of the first things, I saw you sing just like random stuff like on Instagram. Like it wasn't like the polished stuff, but it was just like you playing piano, like I'm assuming at your house.
Yeah.
Just like singing like a 60-second thing for Instagram.
Right. Just on put the cell phone up and hit play.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier like you've done a bunch of like professional studio albums and all those types of things. But I saw you sing on Instagram. I was like, oh, she's really good. Hey. And then I forget how. Maybe I just Googled you or you mentioned. I forget how it happened. But you sang the national anthem like at the beginning of a football game. Was it Packers game? Am I
Right.
remembering that right?
So I did twice, but probably the one you're thinking of is I sang the national anthem at Lambeau Field for the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football.
That's unbelievable. So whoa, I didn't realize it was Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
So like it was
A live broadcast, 13 million
Live-
people watching. Yeah.
13 million.
Yeah, 13 million.
Okay, so I didn't know about the live thing.
Yeah.
So all I'm thinking about is 90,000 people, 100,000 people, whatever Lambeau holds, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
76,
picturing you in that, like just that. I didn't know it was live broadcasted.
Yeah. So the thing is, I sang for them the year prior for a preseason football game, and so it was still
It was your
packed.
tryout?
Yeah,
Just
it was. I didn't know.
Like the players'
I didn't
tryout
know
in
it was a
preseason?
I didn't know it was a tryout, but I was 8 months pregnant when I came in and I sang, and it was on our third child.
But
yeah.
the first your tryout, you were pregnant.
Yes.
Okay.
And my tryout, I was pregnant. And so, I mean, we booked it before
Like,
I was
she's good
pregnant.
for a pregnant
Yeah,
woman.
right. So I think they're like, well, she can do that pregnant. Like, let's have her back next year.
Right.
Yeah. So that time, the first time, it was still a full stadium because it's Lambeau Field and if they're playing, it's full. So I was on the sideline, so I could actually see people in the stands. And it was great. It was so relaxed as far as like the personnel and everyone who was there. But then the next year, when it was Monday Night Football, it was not relaxed like that.
Like
It
the
was-
people.
Here's the thing. The people who worked at the stadium were nervous.
Really?
Like they were on edge.
We're on the big time.
Because like they're like, okay, like ESPN is here. We gotta like execute
So
this.
for people who aren't sports fans,
Yeah.
Monday Night Football is the second biggest, most watched television show in the world, only beat by Sunday Night Football the night before.
Okay.
The two biggest television shows every single year, other than the Super Bowl. Like the Super Bowl's the big
Its
one,
own
right?
thing, yeah.
But like weekly regular shows, it is by far. It's like number one by far. Number two is number two by far, and then number three is
down there.
way down. So you're seeing like one of the largest televised events like you were a part of.
Yeah.
So before we're gonna pause that story,
Okay.
and we're gonna talk about me for a second. We're
Yes.
gonna come back to this story.
Taylor.
When I was in junior high,
Mhm.
So just picture exactly how I am now.
Okay.
But this hair up here and blonde, and instead of being fat, I had a six pack. That's the only difference between me. I was the same
Okay.
height. Everything else is the same. The hair was up here and very, very white, and then the belly was non-existent. So that's junior high Taylor. And because I was large and like in good shape, the boys never bullied me
Okay. Yeah.
because I would
No.
beat them.
Right.
The girls, though, knew that I was a decent human being
Okay.
and I wouldn't fight them.
Oh.
So they bullied me mercilessly.
Okay.
So like
But like actually bullying or like
Like-
teasing and playing around.
they wanted my life. They wanted me to suffer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, let's toy tease him 'cause
Right,
he's
right,
cute,
right,
like boys do
right.
the girls, like pull the
Okay, yeah.
pigtails. No, like they wanted me to suffer.
Okay. Wow.
And so like you've been musical your whole life.
Yeah.
I loved music my whole life, but I wasn't musical my whole life.
Okay. Okay.
So in junior high, I loved singing. And I would sing, and every time I opened my mouth to sing, one of, or if not all the girls were like, you suck, you're the worst, like you're terrible. So after years of this, I just stopped singing.
Yeah.
I just stopped singing. Like they bullied
Aw.
me into shutting my mouth singing. Now I still talked more, but
Right. This
little-
is a music video waiting to happen. This is a music video right here.
I have the ending to the music video.
Okay.
You'll hear it soon.
It's coming up.
So I stopped singing. And it wasn't until I think it was my sophomore year in high school that I've always loved the tech stuff. So like literally what my life is now, like doing all this tech and editing and all of these things.
Yeah.
I love that. So I wanted to help out at my church. I was getting involved in church stuff. So I was like, I want to be the tech person for our worship team.
Okay.
For our youth group.
Yeah.
So I'm running the soundboard and all this stuff, and they're like, okay, we're gonna have a retreat for the music team, and Taylor,
Mhm.
you're a part of it, so you can come on this retreat. And
As the tech guy.
as the tech guy.
Okay.
And then they were like, well, part of this retreat is that everybody has to sing, and I'm like, I don't want to. Everybody's mean to me, so So there was a lady there who was like a professional singer,
Okay.
and she did some coach as much as you can coach a sophomore in high school who's never sang before. She like some coaching and all these things. And I sang, and like nervous as all get out, like shaking, like convulsing, like throat. You feel like my throat's closing and all this stuff. But I sang these 2 songs, and the next week I was the lead singer for the worship team. So it's like
upgrade.
Yeah, like the junior high girls shut me up for junior high and an extra year because they're very mean, and then like I got my confidence back because somebody else had this confidence in me. So fast forward, like I'm singing all throughout high school and doing the worship thing, and then I go to college. My sophomore year of college, I add to my theology degree, I add a music degree.
Okay, because you already were like, so you kept doing music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like leading at like retreats and stuff, or like
yeah, so like leading worship for like ministry stuff in college, retreats, all
so,
those things.
So to add in the music minor, then it's like you're already doing
major.
it. Oh, it's another major.
I only do things major. Nothing is minor with me.
Okay, all right. So
So
nothing is minor.
Everything is a big deal. So in college, I start getting. So now I've been singing and like singing confidently, and like so all in high school, like everybody knows I'm loud. The show's called Forte, like musical term for being loud. Like that's what I do, and like so more like raw talent in high school, and like I always sang loud, and I always like had the lungs. It was just like it took a while to kind of hone the tone and those kinds of things in my voice, and so in college I got there. Talented but raw. Okay. And then I started as my music program, kind of like in high school. I was doing music industry, so the music business, but you had to pick an instrument to specialize in. So I did voice.
Voice, yeah.
I am my instrument. This right here. So started getting voice lessons, and still like very confident. But now I'm like having to sing in like Italian and Latin and German. Yeah. I know a German love song now because Die Flamme lodert milde Schein durchglänzt in you. Like they tell me it's a love song, but I don't think you can. I don't think Germans can love each other because of their language. I think if Germans are in love, they had to speak Italian.
Is that how love sounds to you?
Yeah, like my teacher was like, "This is telling your girlfriend at the time, now my wife, how much you love her." I'm like, I think I'm yelling and cursing at her. I think that's what I'm doing because that's what it feels like.
Is it tough love?
Yeah, exactly. You need to shape up. So I start these voice lessons, and part of that is like every like once a month in the semester we all had to get together and perform for like the four voice teachers and the rest of our class. So we're performing in front of people, like doing like arias and classical stuff and like these fancy things. And for the first time in 4 or 5 years, like I get up on the stage for only 30 people. But like it's for a grade, so like there's some pressure. But like literally my legs are shaking like while I'm singing. Yeah. So I'm like my upper body, like I'm like not good for while you're singing, but I'm like
yes.
What is it called? What's
convulsing?
Flexing. I couldn't think of the word flexing because I don't look like I did junior high. But like I'm like flexing my abs so that my upper body is fine.
Sure.
My hands are a little shaky, but my legs, like my knees are clapping. They're, like, and so like I like upper half I look like put together, and everybody's just looking at me like, what is wrong with this guy? And I'm just standing there and singing, so nervous, and that went on for like a year.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And you stayed with it?
I stayed with it.
Okay.
And like then I got this like my confidence that always errs on the side of pride. I'm like, I'm the best now. It's like then I wasn't nervous anymore, but it took a long time of going through it and going through it and going through it. So there's more to the story, but we're going to pause mine and jump back to yours.
Okay.
So you're singing, which I didn't know as we run at football, but I knew it's like for the Packers, one of the biggest brands in all of sports. Mm-hmm. Like, were you nervous singing for what I thought was 100,000 people, but it ended up being millions?
Well, yes, but here's the thing. I went like right leading up to singing. I was the kind of nervous that I love to be, like that anticipation, adrenaline. I'm going to be on my, like A game. It was exciting. But then I'm telling you, it was 2 minutes before we were going to go on, if that. And they're like, okay, we're going. I'm like, going where? Because I'm like standing by the keyboard. We had already sound checked. I'm pointing to my ear because there was like, an in-ear monitor. We had checked everything. And
this
they're like,
is where sound goes in.
Yeah, right there. So I have like my in-ear monitor. I'm all like, because there's going to be fireworks going on. They timed the fireworks to my specific rendition of the national anthem.
Wait, how long is it?
How long is my rendition?
Yeah.
Oh, good question.
Because every year I'm a gambler and I bet on the Super Bowl over under for how long.
I don't know. It's on YouTube though. We can check it later.
We'll check it later.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden they're like, we're going. I'm like, what? And they pick up the keyboard and all of a sudden there's this team of like production personnel is going to the middle of the field. And I'm like, out there? And they're like, yeah, let's go. And I'm wearing high heels, like stilettos. I'm like, oh, wow. So like it was totally different than what I had mentally prepared for,
They didn't make the pregnant woman do that the year before.
Yeah. I'm like, do I not get the pregnancy perks anymore? Come on. And so I go out to the middle of the field. There's like the color guard behind me. I'm like, I can see, now I can't see anyone individually because it's just a sea of, spectators plus 13 million people at home. And then the camera people are nervous. They're like, okay, all right, we can do this. I'm like, oh, who is in charge here?
Right.
And so I was nervous. And then usually what happens is when I'm nervous, I start playing the piano and my nerves dissipate because like I love it, right? It calms me. So I start playing the piano and then the sound guy goes like this. He like moves his hand in a circle to say, go faster. And I'm like, what? I've rehearsed this. We planned, we timed it. Right. Like what? And then I was just like, I had to like make decisions. So the
fireworks are, say.
I know. I'm like, I can't. I go faster. So this is like, it's live TV. It's happening now. And I'm just, like, that was very, if I went back, I would just say like to myself, like, hey, do your thing, do your musical thing. They brought you in because you are the expert in how you are going to sing the song. And don't worry about the nervous camera guy.
Right, yeah. So you weren't nervous. So you mentioned that usually when you start playing the piano, you tune it all out. Did that apply to this scenario, or did that guy's nervousness kind of make you anxious?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to just blame it on him, but I think that like being in the middle of the field like that was a brand new scenario. So I think my nerves carried through. I didn't ever feel like, okay, it's fine. I'm totally relaxed now in that performance. Whereas most of the time I would say really relaxed once I start playing the music. It's just like in those scenarios where I have never been in that particular situation for performing, whenever it's like the first of its type, that's when I'm the most nervous. But once I go through it, I'm like, okay, I know what this is. So that's why it was a surprise to me to be nervous, because I'm like, I did this last year.
Right. Ha. The whole new scenario, though. So you're doing something that you're familiar. Like you've probably played the national anthem,
right? Many times,
1,000 times. Right. But so pause your story.
All right,
back to my story. And so here I am in college. Nervous, shaking. I go through that for about a year, and I get my swagger back. Like I feel like I'm, you got it. Whether it's true or not, like I feel like I'm the best male singer in this entire program, right? There were some of those sopranos that I couldn't hang with, which is going to be like tonight, me trying to sing with you tonight at this little event we're doing. Like I've made a living out of singing with women who are much more talented than me. So I'm talking about being in your element. I will be in mine tonight, and you'll be in yours, singing with people who are worse than you. So, so that was my sophomore year in college. By my junior year. Oh, also that year in sophomore year, we're doing just like our regular choir concerts, like for the school, like our parents. And
wait, sophomore year was you were already feeling in your element by sophomore
by the
year.
Beginning of the year, super nervous. By the end of the year,
all right. So you're like, let's go.
Lessons, like I'm owning that stage and killing it. Yeah. By the end of the year, right? Because I think, I had been singing, but not in that element.
Yes.
So I'm in a new element. It took me a while to get used to it. And then I'm just like up there, not shaking anymore and just more relaxed and performing better because I'm not, super tense.
Yes.
By the next year, so that year we sang for our choir concert, just our local one. We sang this song called Job, about the story of Job. It's African spiritual. Mm-hmm. And you love like the spiritual soul music.
Yeah, that's how I was raised.
Right.
Yeah.
So like this song was an old, like the song that the slaves would sing, just a beautiful, beautiful song. And they needed a male and a female soloist.
Okay.
I tried out, got it. So, and how this song starts. So there's an 80-person choir behind me.
Wow.
And the song literally starts with just me by myself.
Okay.
And that's how the entire thing goes. So like, talk about nervous, like,
right.
because like, you know how choir is, like everybody practices in the key that you're supposed to sing it. So if
you
Taylor
start in a
messes
different
it
key,
up, yeah.
it's not going to be good.
So like literally, like when we walk into we started with this song. So like, I'm starting the concert. Nobody says anything. We process in. And the conductor starts, and I go, so the Lord gave, and then they all go, you know, like 80 people behind me. And so we practice it, and like walking in, I'm starting the concert. It could all go wrong if I just start half a note off, right? I do it over and over and over again. We did it that year. It went so well. We actually did it again at our next concert, like in the spring concert. The following year, our college choir, gets an invite to sing in Carnegie Hall.
What?
Yeah. So here we are going to Carnegie Hall. That, like, for those who aren't, like, if you didn't understand Amanda's squeak, it's one of the most famous performing venues in the world. The Beatles, like all the way back to like the Tchaikovsky, like one of the most famous pianists, like going back 150 years, I think, something like that.
Sounds right.
Some of the greatest performers ever, and me. But by this point, I'm singing Carnegie Hall, like this hollowed halls, right? And not nervous at all. I go out there and I own the stage, just like, you know, George Harrison from the Beatles way back in the day. And I feel great. We walk out. It starts the concert. We had sang it in Hell's Kitchen the day before. Like, we're just owning this. Where literally a year and 4 months before, I was shaking and super nervous.
That's amazing. Because I just think about like what it takes to get through those kind of nerves, you know, like what's happening like psychologically, and how you have to like adapt, you know, to that kind of adrenaline, and the fact that you like went through that for a year, and then then when the stage is elevated, you're able to just like be relaxed. That's incredible.
Like, yeah, I own this place. Like, I am George Harrison. We're the same.
That's amazing.
So it was this crazy, like every time I look back on it, like this reflection of like junior high, don't sing at all, and then getting into high school, kind of opening up a little bit, and you know, performing, leading worship for 40 people, and then kind of getting broken down again,
right?
And being super nervous in a new scenario, like you were in a new scenario, you know, middle of the field in stilettos, like that's a new thing, right? With a guy being like, "I'm nervous, but I want you to be nervous," you know, like his job's on the line if you go three seconds late. That woman's gonna ruin my life. But then, like getting into college, and there's this idea from Malcolm Gladwell called the 10,000 hours. So not the Justin Bieber song that just came out with Dan and Shay. I love that song.
But
duets,
oh man,
Dan and Shay were the man, Bieber was the woman. That's what we're gonna do tonight. So,
I love the Biebs, by the way. Continue, please.
His new stuff is tremendous.
10,000 hours. Okay.
So, Malcolm talks about like to be prolific at something, to be a master of something, you have to do it for 10,000 hours. So I was thinking about like the things that I've done for 10,000 hours, like eat. I'm great at that. Sleeping. I'm great at that. But then like audio editing, like I'm getting close to 10,000 hours.
That's exciting.
Like, you know, podcasting. Let's see, I've done like probably 300 hours of podcasting. So I'm far away, like of like being live, like hosting, you know, speaking, leading worship. Like those are the things that I'm working towards my 10,000 hours. But like, I think we get those nervous and that anxiousness. So there's a difference. You were talking about like nervous excitement, like being nervous excited. Like mine was not nervous excitement. Mine was like I'm nervous and shaking because I think all these people are going to hate me. Like that, like feeling anxious, right? Where you don't perform as well. Yeah. So like what you felt there is like how I felt in sports. It's like I might be a little nervous, but this adrenaline hits, and now I'm at my best.
It. Yeah, you harness it.
But I think that comes like transferring that nervousness from nervous, anxious to where you start crumbling, and nervous, like powerful, like fueling you forward, comes from all the work beforehand. So like me going through all the stuff that I did with singing, you going through the hundreds and hundreds of hours of playing piano and singing to get to that moment.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. David, my husband, talks about that 10,000 hours principle as well. And in fact, we totaled it up one time, and I said I think it's about 10,000 hours that I spent in live performances.
Oh wow.
And so yeah, that's totally it. Where like I think once I hit that mark, I don't know exactly when that was, but looking back over the years, it was like there were no bad shows anymore like that I played.
Right.
Like it's gonna go well.
Right. Yeah.
Like whereas when I was younger in say still performing professionally, but there would just be some bad crowds, right? Air quotes, because like I just wasn't able to connect with them. They were grouchy high schoolers. Who knows? But like now, put me in front of grouchy high schoolers, and it doesn't matter how grouchy they are.
Right.
Like
I'm gonna make them not grouchy.
Like yeah, like we're gonna be not grouchy together. Ready? And so that's such a great point. Do you think, Taylor, that that the practice counts toward those hours?
100%.
Like so me just practicing on my own versus me like actually being in front of people, like do you think that you can count it, or is it like a different category?
I 100% think it counts. The only caveat would be you can't practice for 10,000 hours without ever performing in front of somebody. Because even if you go perform that one time, like if somebody had never performed in front of somebody but sang only the national anthem and played it for 10,000 hours, and then they get put in the position you're in, they'd flip. You know what I mean? So
you had to be able to adapt. Like that adaptability is also something you had to practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's the different aspects of it, but like if you're doing both, which is like what most people do, like even in like regular work, like people that just work in like a big tall business building, they're not giving presentations all the time,
like a real job.
Yeah, not like us. People that actually make money, those people. So, but like they all the work that they did, all the prep work to lead up to the presentation.
I like how you're saying that, like going out and singing in front of somebody is not just that moment, because it's all the moments that you spent preparing for that event. And same with like any job where you have to, it's not just all I can think of is our sports and entertainment. But
the world
when you practice medicine, you're not actually practicing because you know how to do it, right? Yeah.
if
So
you ever went to a lawyer who's just practicing, you're going to jail.
I like that concept of like you're executing, but you've prepared to get to that place.
Yeah, for sure.
It's good.
So I know a lot of, like, I've talked to a lot of people that listen, and I've seen your tweets. Like, I know that there are things that you guys get nervous about. There's things that I still get nervous about. But it takes those hours. Like, there are a lot of my friends who are getting into podcasting. Like, that's the world I live in. Like,
because they call you, right? They're like, I want to start this thing. And you're like, I'm here for you.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, I see a lot of people get into it and they're like, oh, I'm not great.
Okay.
And like, no one's good at podcasting for their first 10 episodes.
Sure.
Like, if you have any kind of charisma, good at talking to people like in person, whether it's large crowds or even just conversationally, you're going to be good at podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a different thing. Like, you've talked, given talks or talked behind, in the middle of your shows or something. But like, podcasting's different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're good at it, but you're going to start becoming a professional at it. The first 10 episodes, you get really good, and the next ones you get better, and the next 10 you get better, and like by the end it's like I don't even think about this anymore. Like, we just turn stuff on and I start talking. Where I used to have like Allison Sullivan notes, like 4 pages of notes, and now I'm just
Allison Sullivan.
We talked at breakfast, like, yeah, we'll probably talk about these things, it'll be fine because we'll be good. So here's how my story ends.
Okay. The end of the music video.
So this is where the music video ends. The song ends of the music video. Mm-hmm. And then I'm in my doctor's office. Like, my home doctor, the guy's been my doctor my entire time.
Okay.
And he has a new assistant.
Okay.
The new assistant is one of the girls from junior high. She was like the lead girl that made my life hell.
Oh.
And I was just nice to her because I'm a good person. But inside, I was like, mean words. I sing in Carnegie Hall.
Oh, wow.
And I just smiled when I walked in. And you know what?
What?
She was nervous because she knew what she did. And in my head, I'm like the guy in Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I won. I won.
That's amazing. That's a song. That's a music video.
It's been 10,000 hours. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. I don't know if you guys have enjoyed them, but I've really enjoyed doing these Catholic Match commercials over the last month, and they liked them too, so we're doing more. Hooray! If you haven't signed up yet, and you're a single person that can legally date, go to catholicmatch.com/Forte. I can't even say my own name. To Sign up for free today. CatholicMatch.com/Forte. Online dating is the new norm. It wasn't when my wife and I were dating because we're super old, but now it is normal, especially in this pandemic-ridden world that we live in. It's really hard to meet people in person. You can do it online. Find somebody where it's safe and you know that they have grown up with the same morals that you have. It's faith-focused dating. Catholic Match is the largest Catholic dating site specifically made for Catholics. And if you're listening to this, most likely you're Catholic or you're along for this fun ride that we all call the Forte Catholic Show. But create your own Catholic love story today. Nope. Again, with the wrong URL, Taylor. Why are they still paying for this? CatholicMatch.com/Forte. Apparently people are signing up, so that's why they're still paying for it. It's super easy to get started. Do it at the correct URL. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I'm still Taylor Stroll. That's still Amanda Vernon. In the last segment, we were talking about our very different music careers.
Carnegie Hall, man. That's amazing.
It was good. That's
good.
That's where I peaked.
Sydney Opera House, Carnegie Hall. There's a few venues around the world that you.
Up Sydney Opera House because
I actually know. I saw it once.
I saw it on TV. Were you there? Or were you...
I was outside. Yeah.
That's good.
I almost made it inside of the building.
I almost made it into the venue.
No, I'm saying that's Tubbs. It's Vatican. It's up there with the places you want to sing at.
Very well known for its performing
No,
arts.
come on. No, really. If you're going to be touring the world, places where you want to stop and sing if you're a musician.
Stop and sing. Okay, we got to keep going.
All right, here we go.
The last segment we were talking about nerves and being anxious and how people feel nervous about things, and you just got to do them and keep doing them and keep doing them and failing and succeeding and failing and succeeding.
Yes.
And then the failures will start to dwindle away. It's just more and more success.
Yeah.
Whether that's your spiritual life or your work life or a new venture you're trying, whatever that is.
Okay.
You just got to push through it if you actually think you have some talent in it. I shouldn't become a professional tennis player. That shouldn't be goal. I've touched a tennis racket twice. But something that you're actually good at and passionate about. And we were talking about these nerves, and you brought up a story in between segments about your daughter that I think would be fitting in.
It reminds me of my 8-year-old daughter, Kiara, because she said to me recently, she said, "Now that you're married to Dad, do you feel sick every day?" What?
He's not that close.
She's like, yeah. And then she went on to say how she feels sick to her stomach with nerves around the boy she has a crush on at school. She's like, "I had to go to the nurse's office, Mom." I'm like, "This is so cute." She's like, "Yeah, I had to go to the nurse's office." And they were like, "What's wrong?" She's like, "Well."
I would pay to have video of that. That's so funny.
So yeah, I thought that was really sweet, and I'm just so proud of my daughter for being such a romantic at such a young age.
So you didn't really answer the question for us. Do you feel sick every time you look at your husband?
Love sick, yes.
Oh.
Of course.
So the answer to her question is yes?
Yeah, yes. I've just acclimated to being lovesick. That's how I want to say it.
What I'm hearing is every time you look at your husband, you feel sick, and you've just gotten used to it. I think for your sake, you might want to clarify.
Okay. Well, yeah, now it gets down to definitions. We talked about nervousness versus that nervous adrenaline feeling, right?
So the adrenaline or the anxious.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say I'm the former about my husband. Adrenaline.
The adrenaline.
Yeah.
So sure. You love that feeling of being lovesick. I guess I don't have feelings, so I've never felt that way about anybody. I'd just be like, "You're nice. Would you like to date?" That's I never felt sick to my stomach. What? I think butterflies in the stomach is a girl's thing, and I just offended every man that's ever felt that way.
Okay.
So how has it changed from when you first saw your husband and you first were attracted to him or whatever to you've been married for a long time?
No. David and I have known each other our entire lives. So I've known him entire lives as far back as I can remember. So it was a progression, I knew him once he hit puberty, then I was like, okay, all right, something can happen. Yeah.
Again, strange way to phrase that. But
what? No, seriously. Yeah, I just knew him as a kid. We were kids, and he was a little kid. I mean, so was I, but I was clearly more mature because I'm a girl.
So you've been married for how long?
10 years.
And you've known him your whole life?
11 years, actually.
So do you, I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah. 10's a nice
so you
number. Mm-hmm.
But you live with them, like life gets normal.
Right.
So how often are you feeling these like butterflies, nervous?
No, okay, really? You really want to know about this?
Sure.
I think a lot, often, every day. And now I say that because I mentioned to you off camera that like my life is like very filled with adrenaline. Like I like have a dramatic style life. And so somebody saw David and me on camera together, and she's like, you act like you just met. And like, or like you're, like you're almost like nervous. She said that word. She's like, it almost seems like you're nervous. And I was like, I just care a lot.
That's silly. Well, you know what I've learned from this final conversation is that I need to work out more because my wife hadn't looked at me like that in a very long time. Okay, Amanda, we've got to get out of here. So the podcast, we talked about it in the first segment.
Yes, we should pray.
We should pray. You find it on YouTube.
Yeah, wherever
podcasts
you
are
you can
found.
watch it on YouTube. You can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts.
And you can see your husband, who you fawn over, off camera while you're sitting with your ex-romantic person.
You heard it here.
And then also, so your music stuff. So
yeah, I
social media.
release a new song every Sunday for my patrons, Amanda Vernon patrons. And then...
So patreon.com/Amanda Vernon?
No. Actually, it's amandavernon.com/patron because it's my own platform.
Oh,
I don't even give
You're not
Patreon my
sharing
money.
that money.
It's for my kids. I feed them with
Good.
that money. Yeah.
Good. Well, very good. And then social media.
Yeah, Amanda Vernon Music. Did you hear how I said my name there? I said it with a drawl. Amanda Vernon
Music. That
wow,
girl can sing.
Texas!
That girl can sing.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, good. So that's how you can get connected with her. She's great. If you didn't notice it here on the show, go check out her singing. Watch her sing the national anthem. See if you can tell that the cameraman is nervous. I'll be back next week. Amanda's going to get on a plane to get away from me here pretty soon, which is smart. That's what all my co-hosts do. So I'll be back next week. See ya! Thanks so much for watching. Not just all of you, but you in particular. Yes. Thanks so much for enjoying today's podcast. Whether you were on your podcast app and on the go, or if you watched our beautiful faces on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. And now, since the episode is almost over, no matter where you are listening, there's a little share button. Share it to social media, tag us in it, and we'll reshare it for you, and it will all be a happy little family like Barney wanted back when we were children. Although some of you might be too young to know who Barney was. Anyway, share it with somebody who you think might enjoy today's show, because we sure did, and you made it this far, so apparently you did, or you're really good at hate listening. Subscribe, share. I love you. See you next week. Perfect.
Whoa, the volume you have. It's so impressive.